Hi gorgeous, my name is Sabrina and welcome to my channel. For today's video, we're going to quickly cover whether the Backrooms movie is racist. There's a tweet that's been circling around from a user on Twitter stating that they believe the Backrooms is racist. And it reads, "Backrooms is racist film. It's technically brilliant but racist. And it's a shame during a time where Black studies is being eliminated on college campuses because I fear people are overlooking the obvious tropes and racist callbacks the film ridiculously displays." Now, let's break this tweet down and see if the Backrooms movie is really racist. One of the things that I noted from this tweet that I thought was interesting was the characterization of Clark. Now, we know that Clark is a drunk, we know that he doesn't take accountability, and we also know that he lashes out aggressively and angrily at people when he doesn't get his way. I believe that Clark was initially written to be raceless, and the reason for that is because his character lacks a lot of defining details, which I seen as more so less racist and more so a missed opportunity to really flesh out Clark as a character. When I watched the Backrooms, I didn't connect with Clark or Mary, but I couldn't understand specifically why I was incapable of relating or even connecting to Clark. And I spoke about this in my Backrooms review where I said that both Mary and Clark are pretty boring as a core of their character. I think that they have compelling backstories, but ultimately those compelling backstories led to nothing. We know nothing about them as the quality of who they are as people. And Clark is pretty much categorized as a bad guy from the movie standpoint. He has literally murdered his employee. He has literally kidnapped Dr. Mary. He literally starts spiraling the longer that he's in the backrooms. And we know that he knows the layout of the backroom, so he could have left at any given point. However, selfishly, he decided to stay there and regurgitate this consistent cycle of violence and abuse around to the people around him. And I'm sure this is going to ruffle some feathers, but I'm going to be the person to say it. Black characters deserve to not have to be perfect. And I feel like it's very racist to assume that they should be. And the biggest disappointment here is not the fact that Clark is heavily undefined, it's the fact that Clark doesn't feel like a black character, let alone a black man. For reference, we have amazing characters like Blade, who is notably black due to his black hairstyle, due to his cadence and how he speaks. He speaks in a black dialect, and he also just has this alluring aura about him, this swagger about him that we see in a lot of other black characters like Candyman. He also has a very good short top hairstyle. He also has a cadence in the way that he carries himself, the way that he has this accent, the way that he draws out his words, and how his aura is also very menacing, but it's also very cool. And we see that these black characters, while they're not defined by their blackness adds to their character and their personalities. And I feel like when I look at Clark has no defining blackness in him. It's like he has very bland and simple dialogue. His hair is kind of just like standard. His clothes are standard. Like, there's no personality, there's no charm to Clark. There's nothing that can really allow the black audience to really relate or even connect to him. Now, in my review, I was able to connect to Clark and Mary and all the other characters through a mental space, through a introspective space, but as characters at their core, I really didn't feel like any of them, especially Clark. I truly believe Clark could have been a staple to the Backrooms, but unfortunately I don't feel like Clark is going to be remembered in the Backrooms. The Backrooms is going to be considered an iconic movie years down the line, but it won't be iconic because of Clark. It'll be iconic because of its name. I also want to note another controversy that recently was just stirred up. Recently, we found out that Captain Clark is played by an actor who also played in Alien Romulus. He was the hybrid between an alien and a human. I'm pretty sure there's a more specific name. I haven't seen the movie in a while, but he played the humanoid, or however you want to describe it, the really tall creature that was born from a human body, and it was sickening. It was literally phenomenal acting, and a lot of people were not too happy about that. So, to provide context, a lot of black people are not too pleased about this casting because they believe it's a caricature from minstrel shows. Now, if you're unfamiliar with a minstrel show is simply a theatrical play that mocked and humiliated and demeaned Black people through stereotypes, among other very horrifying and terrifying things that you can imagine. While the intent is not to mock Black people, obviously this is just an actor who was hired to be a monster in the same way that he was an alien Romulus. A lot of people found that connection because there is a white man, a white actor that is a stand-in as a Black man, and that reminded people of the deep painful suffering of Black people and the things that we went through these minstrel shows. So it's for this to happen, people are pretty worried that this could be normalized and that people will overlook the actual deeper meaning that took place. And I won't lie, the optics don't look great because Captain Clark is literally built on a Black man. It is literally Clark. So it has exaggerated features and moves exaggerated, and yes, it's a monster version of him, but it still has a connotation that it's him, and that's enough for people to feel uncomfortable by this actor standing in as Clark because of the historical context of minstrel shows. We saw how they treated Black people and how they use exaggeration to make fun of us, and I can understand why some people, or some Black people rather, feel very frustrated by this because they don't want it to be normalized. They don't want something that pretty much pained us and caused us suffering through history and continues to cause us suffering to be normalized and slipped under the rug because it makes some people comfortable to say, well, this is just a movie, it's just a monster. But to a lot of Black people, it's not just a movie, it's not just a monster. It still has heavy roots, and I think that that's worthy of exploring. I mean, we still see many fragments of this to this day, especially with clowns, for instance, something that's heavily normalized. Now, if you're unfamiliar, clowns have a very racist history with Black people. Clowns were initially made to mock Black people as entertainment, so the afro, the 4C texture, the kinky texture, the big red nose, the big red lips. It was something to demean us and to make us seem like we were just nothing but a joke. So I can understand why Black people are very sensitive to this topic because that is something through history that's been normalized that people don't really know about. And it's okay for us to have clown mascots like Pennywise. Not saying that Pennywise was built from a racist context, but something like that has now been normalized that it's okay because clowns are just scary now. They lose all their meaning because they just look freakish. But in a way, because they look freaky, it's still being tied to racism and people just don't know it. The reason why they look like that is because they're imitating Black people. They're imitating us to make us appear to be scary to other people. And while Captain Clark doesn't have these exaggerated features, as I said, as like a clown, Black people are just simply just not comfortable with white people, or non-Black people for that matter, standing in as Black people because of simply the heavy implications from history. I know some people have said that this is blackface, modern day blackface. It's not important whether I believe it's blackface or not. I do think what's important is listening to Black voices and empathizing and trying to find reasoning or understanding and just being that listening ear to hear their pain, to hear our pain, because it's important. We should be able to express that it hurts us or that we're sensitive to something and that just be understood. You don't have to necessarily agree with what they're saying, but it takes nothing. It takes $0 to sit and understand and just listen to someone trying to explain to you why something hurts, because at the end of the day, historical implications don't just go away overnight ever, really. Those things still matter and they still impact us to this day. And I like to say that sometimes intent doesn't always matter. The impact is what matters, because sometimes you may not intend to do something to hurt someone, but the impact of it is that you did. We can't help that we hurt people sometimes, unintentionally, of course. But if it happens, regardless to what your intent is, you should still be empathetic to the fact that you hurt someone. And I don't want to be unrealistic about this conversation. Regardless if it's the Backrooms director, I truly believe that people are going to find conflict with white directors and writers simply writing people of color. And in this particular case, Black people. And that's okay. I don't believe that we all have to agree or that we all have to understand. However, I do believe that no one is exempt from criticism, and white directors should expect criticism because as people of color, specifically as black people, if someone who is not your race is writing a character about your race of people, yeah, you should be able to give feedback or say that something didn't sit right with you, because this is your experience, this is how you will be portrayed to the public. And it's important that we correct these stories so that the narrative doesn't get out of hand. I just think that everyone has different experiences and everyone reacts differently to different things. And ultimately, I also believe it's important to advocate for your race, because at the end of the day, no one should be able to tell you about what your struggles or your pain is but you and your race. Overall, do I believe that The Backrooms is a racist film? No, I don't. However, I also want to note that if you are not black, I don't believe that you should tell black people what they can and cannot be sensitive about. You simply just don't know or can't experience the same level of pain and suffering that we have. And that's okay. That's not your experience, and I don't believe that we should speak in rooms that don't belong to us. Black people should be able to express and be concerned about things that make us uncomfortable or that we simply just do not like. And we shouldn't have to deal with the backlash of racism and slurs just because people disagree with us. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more. You can also check out my Backrooms video by clicking the video on the screen, and I pretty much talk about how the Backrooms is heavily misunderstood. There's so many themes of abuse and healing, and I cover pretty much all of it and more. So once again, thank you for watching. See you later, gorgeous. Bye!